Yeah, welcome to the 16th Annual Pat Meyer Vision Award, sponsored by the Johnson County Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I'm Janet Linus, the Johnson County Attorney, and I'm very honored to once again be able to be the MC for this wonderful event. It's been a pleasure over the years to see the different recipients and the different types of help that they have provided to victims of domestic violence and survivors of domestic violence, because it really gives you a sense about how involved our community is in really trying to combat the problem of domestic violence. Because this is October, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and you may have already attended some of the events that have gone on or participated by helping provide groceries at Shop for DVIP at the Hy-Vees and things like that. If not, we will still obviously be very welcome to take your donations to the Domestic Violence Intervention Program to keep it going. But we join today with other people across the country that also are celebrating Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This is a great way to really bring attention to the problem, not only in our community, but across the world, of domestic violence. Just to give you an idea about the prevalence of it, every 9 seconds in the United States, a woman is assaulted or beaten. Around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. More often, the abuser is a member of the household. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. And studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually. Unfortunately, nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who has been in a relationship said a boyfriend threatened violence or self-harm if presented with breakup. And every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. These are frightening statistics, and it could go on and on. But we are fortunate here that we at least have people who recognize the problem, are trying to work to prevent this kind of abuse in our community. I want to tell you a little bit about in Iowa what the stats are and what the work to try to prevent and try to help those who have been victims of domestic violence really amounts to. In Iowa, in a study that was done from September of 2012 to last September, they found that in one given day, 694 victims were served by domestic violence shelters in some way, or domestic violence programs. 471 victims and their children found shelter or transitional housing through one of the domestic violence programs in Iowa. 223 adults and children received non-residential assistance of some kind, or services, or there was a court advocacy or counseling, things such as that. In one day, there were 228 hotline calls. Unfortunately, though, 150 educational and prevention programs were also presented to try to help people learn more about prevention and try to help those who have survived. Unfortunately, 87 unmet requests occurred on a daily basis. Mainly, about 86% of those were requests for housing, so we can see kind of where the need is. And you can imagine if you're in an abusive situation, you finally left, where do you go is often the biggest problem and the biggest challenge, especially if you have children you're trying to care for. So we're extremely lucky to have the Domestic Violence Intervention Program here in Johnson County. Their service to us has been amazing over the many, many years that they have been around. And I just want you to hear their mission statement, because I think it really identifies what the efforts are of the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. The mission of the Domestic Violence Intervention Program is to provide comprehensive support and advocacy services to victims, survivors, focusing on immediate and long-term safety, empowerment, dignity, and hope. In collaboration with the community, we strive to end domestic abuse through education, accountability, and social justice. And I think we can be very proud of the Domestic Violence Intervention Program here, and I think everybody who works with them deserves a big round of applause. So. And actually, if you are a current staff member or volunteer or have previously worked or volunteered at DVIP, would you just raise your hand so we can see in this room? I mean, we really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you, and keep up the good work. So. The Domestic Violence Intervention Program began in 1977, and they've been providing direct service for the last 3.5 decades. Wow, I've been here for a really long time, haven't I? I guess I remember when it started. In 1 year, DVIP will answer 18,000 crisis calls and 8,000 nights of safety. In the past year, because of restructuring, DVIP now serves 8 counties instead of just 4. So they've really been stretched to make sure that resources are throughout eastern Iowa, and have done an amazing job with a very challenging change to the program, and I really applaud them for their efforts on that. Now, I want to tell you about some things that you're seeing here, which is the Silent Witness Project. This is something that's very exciting that Domestic Violence Intervention Program, the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, worked with the Department of Correctional Services to make these cutouts, as you will see. And you'll see there's some information in your program about them too. But they are set up to identify an individual survivor, or excuse me, somebody who did not survive domestic violence. So either an adult or a child who was the victim of murder because of domestic violence. And if you look at the placards on them, they tell the story of a particular victim. They're kind of the reminder in here to all of us about how deadly domestic violence really is. So I encourage you, if you haven't looked at them, to look around the community. And unfortunately, we've had too many people in our own community who have been victims of murder in a domestic violence situation. And we're appreciative, though, of the Department of Correctional Services for making these. They actually had people who were out at Hope House, who were on probation and parole, who actually made the silent witness cutouts and the placards and everything, which I think was a really good reminder for people who are on probation about what really the effect of violence is. So today, though, I want to get to the celebratory part. So it's depressing sometimes talking about domestic violence and what's going on, but today is actually a day of celebration because we're celebrating the Pat Meyer Vision Award. The Pat Meyer Vision Award was started in honor of Pat Meyer, who was the original director and the head of the Domestic Violence Intervention Program, although it had a couple of names before it eventually got to that one that she headed. And we decided to honor her, and we began in 2000 to try to recognize different individuals or organizations or businesses in our community who had really kind of gone above and beyond their work on behalf of victims and survivors of domestic violence. Our first award we started in 1999 when we gave Pat Meyer the award, I should be clear on that, which was very exciting to actually honor her for all her years of service. And then our next one in 2000 was the first one to be given to somebody other than Pat Meyer. And in 2000, we gave it to St. Andrew Presbyterian Church for their work with the Safe Exchange Program. In 2001, Stephen Treves from Community Mental Health and with the Batters Education Program Advisory Board. In 2002, my predecessor, J. Patrick White, the former Johnson County attorney, received the award. In 2003, the 6th Judicial District Department of Correctional Services received the award because of their work for the Silent Witness Project. In 2004, Linda McGuire, the former head of the Women's Resource and Action Center and the first assistant Johnson County attorney in the past, then law professor and citizen lawyer program director, who wrote the book on prosecuting domestic violence in Iowa, was awarded with the Pat Meyer Vision Award. In 2005, Community Television Services was awarded it, and we're glad to see they are still with us here today, helping us. At that time, they helped with a lot of public service announcements, and it was great to be able to give them the award for the help that they have provided. In 2007, Karen Seiler, a member of the Johnson County Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and continuing on today as a staff member with the Rape Victim Advocacy Program, received the award for all of her work with victims and survivors. In 2008, Bob Hartman from the Iowa City Police Department, who was the domestic abuse specialist for the Iowa City Police Department, received the award. In 2009, Mary Ann Petty with DVIP, who is here today as well, received the award for all of her work on behalf of victims and survivors of domestic violence. In 2010, Sandy Booker, the victim witness coordinator for the Johnson County Attorney's Office, received the award. In 2011, we gave the award to Linda Severson posthumously for all of her work on behalf of victims, social services in our community, and her work with the coalition. In 2012, Alda Burrish and Marco's Taxi Cab Company, and Alda is back here as well, I think, yeah. No, is Alda? I thought I saw her. She has not arrived. Hopefully she'll be here. Okay. And Marco's Taxi Cab, Alda, a staff person with DVIP, who is the one from the county attorney's office. I can tell you we have her on cell phone to call her, to get her to come and help us at times. And Marco's for providing service above and beyond taxi cab service when things were needed at the shelter and helping get victims there. Last year, Andy Winkleman, the academic coordinator and assistant director of educational programs at the U of I, received the award, as well as who just came in helping carry chairs. He's still helping us, and a longtime member of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And Table to Table Distribution Network of Food received the award last year as well because of the food that they help provide to the shelter. So you can see it's kind of a wide-ranging group of people who have received the awards in the past, from a taxi cab company to people who work with the shelter to other people in the community. So it's very exciting to be here for the next annual awards. But at this time, I'm going to turn over the podium to Val Kemp, who will present our first award.
Thank you, Janet. Pat Meyer is one of my personal heroes, so this award is always really important to me. Pat is a woman who pioneered the first domestic violence shelter in the state of Iowa. She led the charge to protect victims through advocacy and pushing legislative changes to ensure offenders are held accountable for their actions. I'm also quite sure that Pat will be on the fast track for sainthood when her time comes. If any of you have ever spent any time at the old shelter, you know that Pat was run by caffeine, nicotine, passion, and compassion. And she had lots of all of that things. Joey's also a pioneer, the first agent in the 6th District to have a caseload specifically made up of domestic assault offenders. If our boss would have said, "Who wants to supervise a bunch of lying, denying, violent men?" no one of us would have volunteered. But Joey somehow stepped forward. Joey takes responsibilities to her clients' victims seriously. She reaches out to them at the onset of supervision to introduce herself and any questions they may have. If they wish to reunite with their partner, she carefully assesses the situation and ensures there is a safety plan in place. She serves as chair for our DCS Victim Advisory Committee. If you visit the main office in Coralville, you'll see a big rock outside dedicated to all crime victims. Joy is instrumental in making this happen, and we found it important for all who enter to know that we are dedicated to the mission of no more victims. Joey serves on the Coalition Against Domestic Violence as well as the DART team. She facilitates both the IDAP and Moving On classes. She is passionate about her work, which is often thankless. She works with a challenging population and does her best to ensure their clients understand the impact of their actions, take responsibility for what they have done, and have the tools to do things differently in the future. I'm proud to introduce her, and even more proud she's my dear friend and coworker. So that's that.
I knew Val would make me cry. Okay, so thanks for coming. This is a really great turnout. I've been helping with this for a few years now, and I think we need to stick with doing it at lunchtime, people. This is a great turnout. Okay, so I want to say thanks to many other organizations that do this difficult work as well. Many of them are here in this room. Law enforcement, they're the first on the scene every time, walking into very dangerous situations. County Attorney's Office, those are difficult cases to prosecute. I know that I don't think my dear friend Kristen could come today because I think she's in trial, but she handles most of those, Kristen Parks. Everyone does at the County Attorney's Office, but she does most of the domestic she prosecutes. And of course, DVIP, they're amazing. And that's all they do, 24/7, is direct victim services, and many others. So as an employee of the Department of Correctional Services, I thought I should share our vision statement today, and it is an Iowa with no more victims. In the 20 years I've worked for the Department of Correctional Services, and yes, it's been 20 years, which is so weird to me, I have strived to keep this vision foremost in my mind. This isn't always easy, because when I do reach out to victim survivors, I receive mixed reactions, but it's important to keep reaching out, no matter how difficult. I spoke last week with a victim that I've built a good rapport up with. I've supervised my client for probably close to 2 years now, so I know her pretty well. and he just reoffended and got a new domestic on her. And so we've had a couple conversations. And what she said is, you know, Joey, this was just blown out of proportion. He isn't always bad. He has so many good qualities, and I love him. So I listened, I supported her feelings, but I shared my concerns and my fears for her safety. And that's really all I can do. Yes, this job can be difficult. With the support of my amazing coworkers, colleagues, a wonderful supervisor, and my family, my friends, I always know that I have people to lean on and who understand that this work sometimes makes me sad and makes me cry. And sometimes makes me really mad. And I need to vent and possibly yell. And sometimes I just need a hug and a good laugh. So I'm going to end this with a quote that I found online. There's a lot of good stuff out there. But Kimberly Ann C., she is a survivor. And she says, "I can't see good through my swollen eyes, but at least I am alive. I wasn't sure that I would survive. I was so relieved when the police arrived and put you in their car. But the look you gave me told me their own story, and I knew I couldn't run far. So I set you free once again. What's wrong with me?" So thanks again. I'm very, very honored.
Actually, Joey, we are very honored. We're very honored to work with you, and thank you for the work you do. I'm happy now to introduce Britt Garrett, who's going to introduce our next recipient.
The Crisis Center of Johnson County is an invaluable resource to the residents of Johnson County and beyond. It was started by students, university students, in response to the unmet needs of a friend in crisis, and has grown from a crisis line to also incorporate a food bank, emergency financial assistance, disaster recovery, crisis chat, including services in Mandarin, and training for individuals in the community, among other services. The Crisis Center is the only crisis intervention agency accredited by Contact USA in Iowa. Recently, the Crisis Center has collaborated with the Free Lunch Program, DVIP, and NAMI to create the 1105 Project, which is a human services campus, and it has increased the capacity and improved services to survivors of domestic violence and anyone else in crisis. They've also generously given much needed relief to DVIP by taking their crisis lines, which cover 13 counties, in the evenings. The Crisis Center of Johnson County empowers those they serve, and they distinguish themselves by treating individuals in crisis as valuable human beings. Please join me in congratulating the Crisis Center as one of the 2014 recipients of the Pat Meyer Vision Award. Either way.
Steve, you can get in the second one.
I can get in the second
Yeah.
one?
Okay.
I'm too slow.
I'll give whoever wants to.
I'll let you
Flowers,
clap.
okay.
I just wanted to say a few things. The 1105 project was really made possible as a collaboration of 4 agencies. In the early days, I'm not speechless too many times, except when I got the call with the preliminary budget of how much it was going to cost to renovate 1105. I think I didn't speak for 5 minutes. And But the next day, Christy's like, we can do it, we can do it. So Christy was a valuable partner in helping with the capital campaign. I'm really a chicken to go out and ask people for money. I did it. Christy could do it, I could do it. Beth taught me how. But we had a lot of people with the other 3 agencies and the Crisis Center who helped us along with this project. As a nonprofit leader, I believe in that we should be doing programs as efficiently as possible in order to get more money to the programs that help the victims. And I think 1105 was a huge new kind of innovative collaboration that did just that. I know from Christy, even before 1105 was even a little thought in our minds, that Christy could not find suitable space to rent for office space because of the price of the rental price for commercial space in Iowa City. And so 1105 helped DVIP be able to have that space where they can counsel individuals that are non-shelter, so non-residential individuals. They can provide expanded services through that facility. With low cost. What all the agencies pay is basically just the cost of occupying the space. There's no rent, so to speak. And the other thing that we were really happy about, I think, I don't know if Christy and I jumped up and down. We did jump up and down a couple of times with good news. But was the arrangement that we met with the crisis telephone line. We're a crisis center. We know how to answer crisis calls. And for DVIP, for the crisis center to do overnight calls, the crisis center was able to add some funds to our program that we needed. Adding funds to us, but saving funds for DVIP. And I think between $35,000 and $40,000 is what we were able to put back into DVIP for programs in other areas that can help victims of domestic violence. So that was just great. It's one of the best and first outcomes of 1105. I hope we have a lot more outcomes that will spring up on the horizon down the road. I would like to have everybody that's here, we didn't take up half the room, but I think we got a good fifth of the room here. I have a lot of people from the Crisis Center. If staff, board, and volunteers would stand up and let everybody see all the people we have from the Crisis Center here today to accept the award. So on behalf of the Crisis Center, we accept this and say thank you. It's truly an honor to accept this award. Thanks.
And once again, it's an honor for us to give you the award. The Crisis Center has done so much over the years, and the 1105 project was such an exciting collaboration to see occur in this community, and people really working together and trying to meet the needs of so many people in Johnson County. And so we really appreciate you taking the lead on making that actually happen. So thank you. Well, as I said, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so I have a charge for you, which is to see what you can do to help end domestic violence. I like the mission statement for the Department of Correctional Services, which, an Iowa with no more victims, is a great goal for all of us to have. So whether it's that you're talking to people, talking to friends, know people who have experienced domestic violence, whether you can try to intervene or try to educate some more people about what domestic violence is and how to prevent it, make a referral to somebody that you have concerns about to the Domestic Violence Intervention Program so that they can get the help they need. This is really an opportunity for us all to remind ourselves that we're part of this community and we do want to live in a world without any victims. And so you can still give money to DVIP. That doesn't mean you can't. Our VIP or any of the other good organizations out there. But it really is a chance for us to reflect on what's going on and really take the mission of trying to make sure that we do live in a world without victims to heart. So thank you all for coming. Please, I believe there's more food there, so I hope you will stay and enjoy yourself some more and get a chance to talk to our recipients, all the people from the Crisis Center, all the people from Department of Correctional Services, and everybody else here. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's